Hey, welcome back to the Risers Hub podcast where wellness, empowerment, and personal growth live. It's your girl, Nicole, and I'm back. And before we get started, I want to share a little something with you. You know I love health and wellness. I have a passion for creating experiences, building communities, and uplifting others through movement, mentorship, and storytelling. I enjoy bringing you information and stories that you can take back to your own hub and share and discuss, and use to create what you consider a healthy lifestyle. I am not here to tell you what to do, but I do want to partner with you and cheer you on to be your best self today, tomorrow, and in the future. And the fact that you're listening to my podcast, I appreciate you and hope you share this podcast with others. As you know, December is the month of reflection and growth. Today, I'm continuing that conversation on reflection and how it shapes our wellness journey. Life has a way of impacting us in the most unexpected ways, and reflection is often where healing begins. I have someone incredibly special to me, and hopefully soon to you, and that's my good friend and wellness advocate, Joe Gordon, aka Joe the Wellness Curator, host of Obsidian Mindset podcast, founder of Obsidian Wellness Club, and co-founder of Healing Us by Us. In this week's podcast, Joe is gracious enough to open up and be candid with us, sharing how he plans to navigate the toughest moment and continued prioritization of his well-being. We hope this conversation gives someone out there exactly what they need to hear. A reminder to keep your head up, hold on to hope, and never give up on what matters the most, which is your health and well-being. So let's keep rising with Joe, the Wellness Curator. Joe, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Nicole.
It's been a minute since we've been together, so
It has.
we were just, talking about everything and where we are in life right now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just so glad that we were reconnecting, but I really want you to start by talking about Obsidian Mindset and your wellness club, how it started, where it's at now, and where you're going with it.
Sure. All right. So hi, everyone. If you're not aware who I am, my name is Joe, the Wellness Curator. I live in DC, and I am, as Nicole noted, the host of Obsidian Mindset. I started Obsidian Mindset during the pandemic, and it came out of the wants or necessity of being able to give back everything I've learned during my wellness journey. So to take a step back, I started my wellness journey, is going to be very specific, January 23rd, 2011. And that was, this coming January is going to be 15 years. And, in the beginning of my wellness journey, and over this wellness journey, I've lost over 100 pounds. I've gone through numbers of marathons, half marathons, you name it, I've done it, except ultra marathons. I will not do that. Done it all. And, after a while, it was pretty cool to do, learning about myself, experiencing it. But one question I always got a lot was, oh, how did you do it? Or I would get all these questions about people curious or they want to participate. So I was like, why not? Let me just do a podcast talking about the 8 dimensions of wellness and not only focusing on the physical piece, because that's what most people see, but how the other ones or other dimensions also were impacted by my weight loss and my wellness and fitness journey. So that was the beginning of Obsidian Mindset during 2020 of just kind of going through my own story for the 8 dimensions. But after that, I started to ask more people about what their wellness looks like. Because one of our main premises for Obsidian Mindset is that everyone deserves wellness, and it might not look the same for everyone. But that's even more reason for us to talk about our own wellness journey, because typically in wellness, sometimes, a lot of the time, wellness looks like one thing or looks like a type of person. It needs to look like abs and it needs to look like, whatever it looks like. Well, that's not true. We have different stories. We have different backgrounds, cultural, influences. So that's the way our wellness should also look like. So that's the one thing I just want to make sure I'm always looking out for wellness, talking about what the trends are, kind of debunking them. And that's kind of my premise of Obsidian Mindset. It's been fun. I had to slow down a little bit because burnout is real, and we'll talk about that later. But I'm excited to be back and really influencing and talking to people about where they're at in their wellness journey. So that's the podcast. And then for Obsidian Wellness Club, it's just basically an extension of Obsidian Mindset. I want to talk to and experience it. If we were using an example, the Obsidian Mindset is like the antenna where I get to bring out my ideas and spread it out to the masses. But Obsidian Wellness Club is like the lab. That's where the 3 pillars are: explore, experiment, and play. And I want to do that with wellness. For me, wellness should be fun. I was talking about this on TikTok. The reason why a lot of people's wellness journey doesn't last too long, one of the reasons, is because you're not having fun, right? It's not a chore. Wellness shouldn't be a chore. Wellness shouldn't be something that I begrudgingly have to do. It's about finding that sweet balance of like a fun joy filling you up internally versus, pushing past your boundaries and being uncomfortable. So we do that in forms of, workouts and stuff, running meetups, but we have an event we'll talk about later. We'll do puzzles. We'll do what brings you joy. We'll have book reads, and we have a reading club, a book club. So we try to hit all the dimensions of wellness so that people feel whole and they have fun in this trying times.
What's the most popular part of the club? Would it be the running club right now?
I think it's, interestingly enough, I started doing the running club last year. I think what I've noticed is just in-person community, regardless of what we're doing. So it's not like we're going to do a half marathon tomorrow, but rather we're just going to walk the block and talk. Those are the ones where more people get engaged and more excited. So I really try to make it a base level of like anyone can come. And if I need to bring you and add maybe like 5 pounds to you because you're advanced, I'll do that. It's easier to level things up than bring things down. So giving everyone that same baseline and having them come through. So yeah, I think the biggest thing right now is just non-fitness things, but kind of sneaking fitness into it, if that makes sense.
Yes, because talk about your upcoming event, Side Quest, because that's great. Like we're going to have cameras in our hand, but we're really going to be walking.
So for me,
DC.
So this is, I always use this analogy. I used to not like spinach, especially during the beginning of my wellness journey. Spinach was just not for me. So what I do, because I know it's very important, great for nutrients, vitamins, is I would sneak vegetables into my smoothie. So I put spinach in all my smoothies. That's one way of wellness. If wellness, if fitness, I don't like going to the gym, yada, yada, sneak that bad boy into your life. So that's exactly what our event is. On Sunday, December 14th is the next event we're doing. It's called Side Quest Sundays. The reason name behind that is because we want to do things that, the gym is cool if that's your thing, but we want to do things that are like outside the boundaries or outside our realm of thinking of what wellness should be. And, I'm very big into fantasy books. I'm very big into gaming. So I like to think of this as a side quest. It's important, and it also will help you into your main quest, but this is just something fun for you to do. So on the 14th, we're doing a photo walk. I used to do them a lot in New York City. I love them. So before caveat, I am not a big camera person. I do have a Canon, but I don't know all the lenses. I'm very basic, but that's not the point of this, right? If you have that, come on through, you're allowed to. But this is about just being in the environment, being in nature, being in the community, and walking, because I have a challenge going on called Obsidian Mentality, which one of the pillars is that we're making sure that we are getting at least 10,000 steps. And what better way to do that than just being in nature, taking pictures, playing games, and being in community? So another way to sneak in a little bit of wellness and walking.
And if you bring the big old camera, that's like going to the gym and lifting a couple of weights. So,
bring that pad, bring everything ready.
So I can exercise this neck and these fingers.
Do you have a camera?
My dad collects cameras, and so I was able to take one. And he still takes pictures himself. So, but yeah, he granted me one of them to use, and so I'm bringing that one out.
Yes, so I think I'm gonna bring mine. I haven't used, so a lot of the things that I've done was back when I was in New York City, and that was pre-pandemic. And I really, to me, found my peak when I think about wellness. It was 2017, 18, 19. And then the pandemic hit, and similar to everyone, we all had to shift. And for me, this year has been a lot of trying to reconnect with my old pandemic self and things that brought me joy, traveling, racing, things that felt very different or alien when I started doing it in 2021, 2022, when the quote unquote world started opening. But now I'm really trying to say these actually did bring me joy. So how do I bring this back into my life? So photography is one of them.
So how hard was it for you to start your community with Obsidian? What do you claim for your success for building this community? And, what plans do you have in the future just to get more people out there?
Yeah, that is a great question. So for me, one thing that I have been taught, and I try to hold to myself the whole time, especially when you're trying to build community, is, and actually it's any dream, is don't be committed to it's like, don't worry about the end product, kind of worry about what the process is to get there, right? So in my head, I'm a planner, right? I say, I'm going to do X. It needs to look like Y, and I need to do A through Z to get there. I know that analogy was weird because there's a lot of letters out of order, but you know what I mean.
Yes,
And
I know.
I'm very like particular, steps. And that doesn't work in business. That doesn't work in community building. That doesn't always work because things happen. Life happens. A pandemic happened, right? So what I'm learning is you kind of have to learn to be nimble and flexible and kind of shift, right? So if we're doing meetups, for example, I was doing meetups maybe on Fridays at 6 a.m. or 7 a.m. because that works for my schedule.
Mm-hmm.
But then I got feedback saying, can we do a little bit later because that's too early for all of us. That's an
Right.
example of me shifting because that's what the people want. Even like people saying, half marathons, that's too much for me. I don't want to train for that. Cool. Let's do a 5K. If
Yep.
long run's too long, you know what? And that's the reason why we typically, when we do the running club, we do it on the track, because if you have different people at different paces, it's easier to do a track versus going somewhere on the sidewalk. You have to make sure
Right.
everyone's around, and you have to kind of have pacers. So there's a lot. You just learn to shift to meet the people where they are. And I think that's what a good leader is, right? They're not just looking forward and how do we get to my goal, but they're
Mm-hmm.
looking around and saying, how do we all get to that same goal? Even if I have a vision of it, how do I make sure everyone's around to get us there?
I like the idea of keeping everyone kind of compact on a track, because in that way, like as you guys are going around, it doesn't even matter what pace everyone's going. You can see, you can cheer, you can, be there for
High five
everybody.
on the way. Yeah,
Yes,
you're still
yes. And
there.
community is so important when you're building, when you're going through your own wellness journey. So I want to talk a little bit more about your wellness journey, because you had talked about gaining the weight, losing the weight, going through the pandemic.
Good job.
I know we're going to reflect on 2025, but like looking back at that and knowing where you are now, if you could say something to yourself back then when you were first going through that, what would you say?
Okay, let me talk to young Joe real quick. I think I would say just keep the course and don't focus like on the outside. Focus on the feedback. Don't focus too much on the external factors. What is your why? Stick to that, right? Finding your North Star, making sure it's internal. Actually, again, another TikTok. I was talking about, that's one of the principles of Obsidian, is like knowing your why. And that's pretty much the first one, because when you have that internal why, all that external factors are going to go out, are going to like, there's small p's in the comparison, right? And the reason why I always focus on internal goals, internal, like, am I happy versus external? And external is cool, right? Like if you have a wedding or a vacation and you need to get in a certain physique for that, if that's what you want to do, go for it. But that's short term. And external things are going to change. But when you do internal, it's less likely that you'll fumble. And if you do, it's much easier to get back on track because that's inside. You control that. If someone says if someone gives you bad feedback and you're always using that feedback as your motivation, what happens when it's gone? Are
Exactly.
you still going to be motivated? So I always try, and it's not easy. I'm not, because we all have our days, but I always try to tie it to something internal. I feel powerful after a workout. I feel confident. I feel like I'm helping folks. Those are all internal things. But if I come out with a banging body at the end, I'm not gonna be mad either. So
Very much so.
it's not bad. But that's not my main focus.
Right. And I think that's really important for the audience to hear as well. When you're going through something, especially when you're listening to this podcast and you're reflecting back on this past year, and it's been turbulent for a lot of people out there.
Mhm.
And as you move forward, think about your why and think about your personal why. Don't worry about, like you were saying, when you're talking external, what your friends might want you to do, or what your family is telling you to do, or what your loved ones are telling you to do. What do you feel in here? And why do you feel it? And how are you going to move forward? And if you can define your own why, that's the beginning of a path that you can create yourself. So I really like that idea and that concept.
And if I could add one more thing that I was thinking about, what I would tell my old self is do not compare yourself to your old self. And what I'll say to that is, in the beginning of my journey when IG was big, right? Or when it was bigger, when it was first newer, every year on January 23rd, I would put up a before and after picture. And it was, I got a lot of, likes and stuff. And that was like the external factor, external validation, which, we all do it. So I used to do that. And then after a while, I stopped. And the reason is because your journey is not going to be linear, right? There was one year where my after picture didn't look as good as the year before. And then that was a big reaction of like, oh man, do I still post it? Like, did I do enough? And then after a while, I learned that picture, that two comparison doesn't show the other stories that's behind it. It doesn't show that, I might not look as good as last year, but I'm happy, right? So don't always compare your old self. That might have been 10 years ago. You might have been a track star 10 years ago, but you're still alive today and you still have the autonomy and you still have the motivation to keep pushing. So that might be your new version and that's okay too. So that was another big thing for me.
Do not compare yourself to your old self. Yeah. Because we have all gone through something that has changed the way that we see life in general. And it could have been something, traumatic, or it could have been something positive, or it could have been anything. And the one thing that I used to tell my girls when they were growing up, never judge a book by its cover, because unless you've read the book, don't judge the book, because you don't know what that person woke up to that morning. You go to school, you don't know if those kids that you're going to school with, if their parents are abusive, or they were arguing, or they didn't get any food that morning, or you have no idea. So don't treat anyone differently because they look different or they're acting different. And I'm talking good and bad people, because you don't know what someone's gone through.
That is the main reason a lot of people love to do this. I will never compliment someone for losing weight. I've learned that because I know in our society, they're like, oh yes, congrats, you lost weight. That person could have lost weight because of stress. They could have lost weight because someone in their family died. They could have lost because they have cancer. There's so many quote unquote reasons that are not positive that they lost weight, and it might have not been what they wanted. So unless they say I'm happy I lost the weight for XYZ, I do not even bring it up.
So another thing that you're involved in, you're the co-founder of Healing Us by Us. And I've seen a lot of posts that you've posted about that. It just seems like you and that whole community has really built something that's really helping a lot of young men. And I want you to talk a little bit more about that, how it started, and all the type of events that you have for that particular community.
Yes, thank you. So yes, I'm also the co-founder of Healing Us by Us. Started 2 years ago with my friend Monroe and my other friend Antoine, who is now living in Bali, living his best life. But what the premise is Healing Us by Us is a community for Black queer men. And we are learning about healing, and that's what it feels like. But when it comes down to, and we've kind of used these last couple of months to narrow down what exactly our message is. And it's about creating friendships and bonds in the community, and then really identifying what that looks like so that we can show it and feel it and embody it with all the people that we are seeing. So there's there's often people saying, I don't feel included, or I don't feel like I am doing the right thing, or, this community, it feels like I'm being ignored. And that's not something I would want anyone to feel like, especially, to be honest, living in DC, sometimes if you don't have that community, it feels lonely. It feels like you're on an island, especially as a Black queer man. It's people are just so focused on, the job and professional and career. So sometimes finding that community and that home doesn't come as easy to me compared to let's say, a New York. But it doesn't mean it's not any less important. So what we do is we do events that focus on healing and wellness, but also talking about issues that really impact Black queer men and Black queer people in general. So what we typically do is one of our staple events is the healing space, where we have a community discussion followed by a yoga experience that is really for anyone, beginner, median, intermediary. We want to make sure that everyone, again, feels included. But we've done other things such as book reads. We've done church revivals or church events, church meetups. We've done hikes. We've done dog park meetups. So again, similar to Obsidian, we're finding different ways that wellness touches you, whether that's a hike and that feels like that's for you, or if you feel like you want to go to a church and a church that is queer, accepting and focused. And these spaces are around. Sometimes we are in our bubbles, we don't see them, or they're not seen as popular. So they don't come to the, the algorithm doesn't put them to the top, but that doesn't mean it's not as important. And you don't know what you don't know until you know. Am I saying that right? You don't know. Y'all know what I'm talking about. But basically, it's not until you're exposed to some of these things that you realize, okay, that's actually what I needed. And there's a lot of times where people come up to us afterwards and say, I came in saying I wasn't going to do yoga. I've never done it. I'm not flexible. And we make sure that when we are bringing people on to help us with the yoga experience, that they are inclusive and they are working with everyone. And if you can't do that, if you can't do the down dog, there is an opportunity for you to do something else that'll also be well in your body. The first thing is we want you to know what it feels like to be in your body. I think a lot of folks don't know that feeling because we are always on the go. We're on the rush. We need to do this. We need to post this. We need to do this deadline. What does it mean to be still? What does it mean to not talk for a little bit? What does it mean to listen, actively listen? What does it mean to be a friend? So these are things that we ask and then just pause and listen, right? Sometimes it's not even about talking. It's just about letting it marinate. Sometimes we do drawing, right? Sometimes we'll have clay. Sometimes we'll have the sand, the ball, because these are all things that are manifestations of our body that we might not know we need until we have it. So I know that was a little bit of rant, but that's kind of the thing that we try to do. And we have a lot of things coming next year that I'm excited for and that we're going to use to build upon that.
And do you have a page on Instagram?
Yes. Healing Us by Us.
You guys need to check that out because the photos that I've seen, I just feel the energy in the photos that you can tell that those young men are being fed, and that they have community, and you can just feel the warmth in whatever activity that you guys are doing. And so I really wanted you to touch on that whole organization because I think it's fantastic.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, especially, you were talking, especially with this administration, everything going on in politics in this country, not even internal and external politics. It's been a trying couple of years. So just being able to be community, we're not going to have all the answers, right? I think you could say that, but any of our communities that we have built, we're not going to have all the answers, but what we can do is we can provide safety, we can provide communication, and we can provide love and guidance. That's honestly, that's all we can do.
Yeah. And, I'm just going to keep screaming this every time I can. Just be kind. Just be kind to other people, no matter who they are, what they look like, what they smell like. Just be kind.
Just be kind.
Yeah. It's so much easier than the alternative.
It costs nothing.
Costs nothing.
It costs nothing. It's actually funny because I've been this might surprise people, but I'm an introvert, kind of on the shyer side, but I can fake it till I make it. That's just more of the corporate side. And one thing I've been doing to kind of get me out of that and also to kind of show up differently is I will every day, my goal has been to compliment someone random. Just randomly compliment them. Oh, your dresses look amazing. And it is amazing how that just one thing changes someone's spirit. And it costs me nothing. I feel better. I feel, nervous because you could get rejected. You could get cursed out. But seeing their reaction, it's nice. It doesn't cost anything.
It doesn't cost anything, and you're actually feeding yourself because 9 times out of 10, if you're complimenting someone else about something that's on them, they're not gonna deny that. Oh, I thought this looked good, And then you get that whole reaction, and it makes you feel good. It makes your heart feel good, and I guarantee you that person is gonna take that you've given them, the kindness, and give it to somebody else. It's a domino effect. You just have to start it. You just have to start it.
Just be kind.
Just be kind. That's how we met. I was
literally,
my friend. And I don't care if you know that or not.
Honestly, it is amazing how, we could have a whole episode about energy, but
we can.
The energy is very palpable. And the more you notice it, the more you kind of, again, being present in your body and kind of figure out what your own energy is and what you need and what you don't need, the more you could show up in the world exactly the way you want to, as well as receive the energy that you want to. I know it sounds very woo-woo because anytime you say energy and people are like, oh, check out, but it's just like, really, it really, I don't know if there's no science, there's probably some science behind it, but just like being able to see that, feel that energy and give it out and getting it back, it's amazing.
I believe in energy. We were talking about this earlier before we pressed record, and my whole thing is I have to live off energy, and I can feel when there's good energy around me, and I can feel when there's bad energy around me. When I feel it, I think it's kind of a gift, because if I feel bad energy, I literally move to the left and get out of their way, because I don't want it. I don't want it surrounding me, and I don't want it to affect me in a negative way. So I just kind of step to the side, move over here, and I let that person be who they need to be and let them get out what they need to get out. And I'm good with that. And if it's good energy, I'm going to figure out a way to bring it in, like with a compliment, with a little bit of conversation. And 9 times out of 10, that good energy that they have is bouncing up back to me and back to them. So I believe in it. So if one is listening to this thing, go, okay, they're a little woo woo. I'm sorry. That's my woo woo. I'm gonna get some shirts made. Said my
that's my woo woo.
Oh my gosh! So December is all about reflection and growth, holiday stress, and winter wellness. So I want you to talk about, if you can think about 3 reflections from this year that have been profound, that you like to share, and you believe that you have grown from it or that you will be growing from it.
Okay. The first is, so this year I did the Baltimore half marathon.
Ooh.
And that was, I've done a few half marathons since the pandemic started, but this was like the first one that I really trained for, really locked in and did it. And it was amazing. Have you ever done Baltimore?
I haven't done Baltimore.
Baby, let me pull up the mic. That thing was hilly. That I have never experienced. Well, I think there's one of the races that was just as hilly. I did not know Baltimore has so many hills, but I'll say all that to say, and I probably should have known that because this is why you should research the courses before you go on it. But that's another story for another day. But just to be in community with everyone, it made me remember why I started running when I was back in New York City. The race is cool. I love the medal, but the feeling of being around people that are aligned, that are pretty much positive, that are all going towards the same thing. You're feeding off of people, literally people you never even met or might talk to, but you see them on the course and they're going the same pace as you for 10 miles. Y'all have a bond, whether they know it or not, because they might be in front of you. But like, I've had so many people that they've come to me after saying, oh, I use you to pace the whole race. And I was like, I did not know. Or I come up to someone after, again, giving people compliments. You were my rock during this whole thing, or you got me through mile 12. And they like light up because they didn't know, they were all in their own journey. So I say all that to say it made me realize the community pieces of racing. So I really enjoyed that in the process of that. That was one. Number 2, what else? I think for me, what has been really good is just me flourishing through Obsidian, through all the brands and the events I've been doing, and being able to quiet the imposter syndrome that nags at me constantly. The more I do it, the more like I do what I'm passionate about, the more that I do the things that I think are my calling, the more that voice shrinks a little bit more. One of the things I was talking about recently is you're always finding evidence for whatever you want to believe in. I actually said your brain is like a lawyer. Whatever belief or case you give it, it's going to find evidence. So you say you're fat, you say you're lazy, it's going to give you all that evidence. Mind you, you could easily say, I'm amazing, I'm the bomb. And then you could shift that mindset, shift that case if you're staying in that metaphor. And then your brain's like, okay, let me pull all this evidence. Oh, when you were 5, you did this. Oh, when you're 8, you did this. And then after you see it, you're now changed your whole mindset. You might start walking differently. You might start going to the rooms differently. You might start talking differently. So for me, it's just about changing my mindset and like living through it and then letting that noise, that back, she's everywhere. She's going to keep talking, but letting her say, you know what, just calm down. I got this. So that was number 2. Number 3, this is going to be a little breaking, but I will say that this year I have been impacted by layoffs, technically more than one, but we were talking about this off camera, and It has been a blessing and a curse. I think if I take a step back, there has been a lot of people that were impacted by layoffs and just changing in financial difficulties or changing in economic circumstances. And it's amazing to see from like Doge and, all the things that were happening where we are in a very strange economic time. And, it's not normal. But what I will say it is during these times of difficulty, during these times of change, it does allow you to find out what's priority, find out what actually is your North Star. I think I was telling you, finding what's your map and where you want to lead to is going to be difficult. I think we were talking about that, but it's just about feeling like, okay, but at least I know where I want to go and how I want to feel. I think that's the bigger thing. I have had years of like, I know what I don't want to feel. I know how it makes me feel when I'm not in alignment. If I'm thinking about a river, I know what it feels to be paddling upstream and how much work it is. And all I want to do is start to find areas of my life where I can start paddling downstream, flowing with ease. And I think that's my new goal, just learning to flow with ease. What am I, like, I just want to lay back and I just want to let the currents bring me wherever and know that I'm okay. Whether that means that my community is on the side, making sure I'm okay, whether it means my passion is going to pay for everything, whatever that means, I just want to have freedom and flexibility and ease. And that's kind of like my next big thing.
I like that. Let's go back to reflection number 2. And you were talking about how, the brain is telling you this and the brain is telling you that. It's back and forth. I'm actually reading a book, and I hope my mom ain't listening to this, but it's called Everything is Fudged. I'll just use fudged for the F word.
Oh,
okay?
Got it.
And one of the chapters I'm in right now, they're talking about the thinking brain and the feeling brain and how they interact, because they don't really interact. You're either in the feeling brain or you're either in the thinking brain. And if you are aware of those two brains, there's a way to, okay, let the feeling brain be over here acting crazy, but then also allow the thinking brain to kind of clear the path so that no matter what's happened over here, there's a path that you can take. And so I really like the way that you used it earlier, because it made me think about this book. And, you're going to have all these thoughts. And the first thing I asked you when we start talking about this off camera was, are you journaling? And that's another way to put yourself in a path that, okay, I got to stay on this path because this is what I want. This is my why. And if things are not aligning with that, then I can just move those off the path and keep it straight. And then the next thing you talked about, what was the third reflection that you had?
Layoff and just learning and using that.
And so what I want to say to that is, because I have been laid off before, I've been fired before, I've been whatever. I'm 120 years old. So a lot of things have happened in my life. And the one thing that I have learned is that if you build yourself a solid foundation of values, and again, your why, what you want and how you feel, a storm can come in and do whatever it needs to do. But if your feet are on that solid foundation that you've built, you'll be able to withstand the storm. There are going to be days where it's not going to feel that way. Trust me. But I've come to the point in the past 5 years of my life that I'm the one steering the ship, along with the help of God, but I'm the one steering the ship. And it's going to go left, it's going to go right, but I'm still going forward. So you can throw whatever you need to throw at that ship, but if I'm driving it, everything is going to be okay.
We good.
And if God is ahead of me, everything is going to be
good.
okay. But believe in yourself is what I'm trying to say. Believe in yourself, build your own foundation, and you're going to be fine. And it's the most scariest thing to be on your own foundation. But if you believe in yourself, and if you believe in something bigger than yourself, you're going to be fine. Yeah.
Period.
With a T.
Sorry. That's how I know I'm old. I forgot to put the T.
All right. So is there anything else you want to share with me today? Because I really enjoy a conversation, Joe, and you know that we can go on forever.
December is such a interesting month. For some, there's trauma, right? I think a lot of people think holiday season is joyous. A lot of it's trauma. Some people it's trauma. Some people it's a weird time. So for me, all I like to say is just give yourself grace. If you know that, family brings up something, friends bring up something, then you have a choice, right? Just be able to put yourself first and consider what you need, even if it makes some people unhappy. And then two, kind of on the counterpoint, and this is the reason why we're doing our Obsidian Mentality Challenge, is you do not need to wait for the new year. I'll repeat this again. You do not need to wait for the new year to start new good habits. I know it's very easy to say, I deserve this, or I need this break, which you probably do, but you could also take a smaller step. So example, if you want to run a 5K, you might not start running until January 1st, but between now and then you can start walking, right? So just always exactly what Nicole, like you were saying, always in action, always in motion. And if you're confident with that, if you know what your inside is, whatever, if you are confident with your foundation, everything else will work itself out. So
and we're talking about running. It could be gardening. It could be dancing. It could be walking. It could be,
anything.
Shopping.
Oh.
I don't know why I said that. That's kind of bad. But anyway, you know what I mean.
Not us both making a face like,
if you're shopping and walking and carrying a lot of bags.
I like the way you did that. I like the way you did that.
But no, do something that is going to feed your soul and make you happy. And as long as it's making you to be a better person, physically, mentally, spiritually, you're moving in the right direction. Yeah?
Period.
All right.
Let's know. That's it.
Joe, thank you so much for being so transparent on the Risers Hub. I really appreciate your time. And until next time, everybody, keep rising.
Bye, y'all.
Hey, thanks for tuning in. Remember, this podcast is meant for both education and entertainment purposes only. I am not a licensed therapist, so it's crucial to consult your physician, psychotherapist, or qualified health professionals for personalized advice. Until next time, take care. If you're enjoying this podcast, I would like to ask you to please subscribe, like, and share. That's what they told me to do at the end of this podcast. So could you hook me up? Thanks. Bye.